the cool thing is, like I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, is the body has an innate intelligence to heal itself. That's how it was designed, right? So we can just clear the path and put in the right inputs and usually support a little bit of supplementation. Man, the body can do crazy, amazing things.
At any age. It's not
At
just,
any age.
you're not too old for it because you're 60 or 70 or whatever.
No,
You
not at
can
all.
adopt
It's never
healthier
too late.
habits. If you want to go down a really confusing rabbit hole, start looking into supplements for people over 50 trying to stay fit and healthy. It's overwhelming. There's so much information and disinformation out there, so many scams. How can you figure out what's best for you or your clients, or at least prevent anyone from getting ripped off? Well, my guest today says it's best to keep nutritional advice simple, to remember that everyone is different and that supplements are like automobile insurance. You hope you never need it, but if you do, you're glad you have it. Hi, I'm Jay Croft, and welcome to Optimal Aging, the show for fitness, health, and well-being professionals trying to grow their businesses with more people over 50. Nikki Raymond owns Experience Health, a holistic health clinic here in Atlanta. She's a trainer, nutritionist, and pro bodybuilder who's now helping clients understand their individual nutrition needs and helping them come up with smart ways to meet those needs. I've learned a lot about my own body and blood work and biomarkers in the short time that I've known Nikki. It's been invaluable information and really interesting in this whole fitness over 50, optimal aging conversation. I've learned a lot, and I think you will too. So I hope you enjoy it. Nikki, it's great to see you again. Thanks very much for joining me today. I'm really excited.
It's a pleasure being here, Jay.
Okay, good. Well, we have a lot of interesting stuff to dive into and talk about: functional nutrition, holistic health, optimal aging. No coincidence, the name of the show, and it's a big part of what you do.
Very much
So,
so.
yeah. So before we get to all that cool stuff, tell us about yourself. And, you have such an interesting background. I don't want to risk leaving anything out. So tell everybody about how you got to be where you are right now.
Yeah. So, my story begins like in my early 20s, honestly. I worked at a law firm for a while as a receptionist, and I did not like what I was doing. I was very miserable. And I was 20, 21, and I went and got a personal training certification, right? And I did that. And I did that all in my early 20s. And then I realized that the clients I was working with weren't getting as good of results. So I was like, okay, there's a food piece to this. It's nutrition, right? There's got to be more to this. So I went and got my first, nutrition certification. There's been many since then. But, what I found was people that I worked with that we just focused on nutrition versus the people that would pay me thousands of dollars to meet with them in person were getting better results. Right. So, and then I was like, I feel like I'm wasting people's money and time because I need to be talking about food, and food is medicine, right? And food is the number one thing we put in our body every day. And then every time we eat, two things happen. And then I'm going to make it really simple. Either makes us better or makes us worse. There's some kind of chemical reaction that goes on the body every time we eat. So like I said, it's an opportunity to make yourself better or worse. So, I started there. So fitness has always been a thing. Then it morphed into just nutrition. Then I did that for many, many years virtually and in person with some people. And I quickly realized that there was a lot more to people's health. Then we get into hormones, we go into gut health, and we get into stress and cortisol, and there's just so many different things. So I went down the functional medicine path and, started looking at holistic healthcare and how we can actually heal the body. And my little soundbite for people is, the body has an innate intelligence to heal itself. It was designed that way by the universe, God, whatever you want to say, but we clear the path, and there's always a root cause. So I did that for a long time. And in lieu of all of that, probably in my early 30s, I started competing in bodybuilding. I was a bikini competitor. So it's a very small, very feminine look. I did that for many, many years. And then after my sixth year competing, I finally got my pro card. So now I compete in the IFBB, International Federation of Bodybuilding, and I use all of my holistic tools to optimize my body. And one of the biggest things is testing. and knowing your numbers when it comes to blood work, knowing your numbers, DEXA scans, which is a bone mineral body composition test machine. I actually have one at my clinic. And it's just being able to test and measure what you're doing to make sure that the diet you're doing, the supplements you're taking, the peptides that you're doing are actually getting the result you want, right? So it's been this whole like journey of realizing there was a gap, realizing people need to focus on food, then realizing that, okay, now we need to really take it to the next level to optimize. I deal with people who are the sickest of the sick and have symptoms, and they've been told they're normal by their doctors. Or I deal with people like you, Jay, where you do the things, you work out, you eat your good food, you take your supplements, but then you say, how can I optimize what I'm already doing?
Mhm.
Kind of my story. It actually led to me branching out into hormone replacement for people, peptide therapies, and I actually needed a physical location to be able to do that. So last year, I decided to actually take my online business and put it into a brick and mortar in Atlanta, Georgia. So yeah, so it's been a journey for sure. So I'm a big believer, like I said, in testing and in what we call functional nutrition. And you said that at the beginning of the show. So what that is, it's a branch of functional medicine. So I'm not a doctor. I'm a holistic healthcare practitioner and a nutritionist. So therefore, we practice functional nutrition. It's doing blood work and understanding the body and what it's deficient in, and being able to really tailor someone's supplements and their food to help them lose weight, feel great, build muscle, heal the body, whatever it might be. So that's the whole premise of functional nutrition. And really, Jay, it's teaching people how to eat. There's so much information. We're all overloaded with all this. Try this diet, try this, do this pill, blah, blah. Or my friend Sally said, this worked great. But it's slowing down to say, okay, I'm going to do blood work and I'm going to find out what I actually need to do for my own unique bio individuality. And so that's kind of the premise of the clinic. It's testing, understanding, and educating people on their numbers, what it means, and then coming up with a nutrition training protocol for them based on what their body needs versus what they've heard on a podcast or they've read on Instagram or so on and so forth.
Right. I love it because I think the path that you just described for yourself is something that we're kind of all going through as a culture, perhaps.
Agreed. Agreed.
You're ahead of the curve,
Yeah.
but I think it's still relevant for a lot of people, who think, well, I need to get in shape, so I'll go to the gym, and they work out and nothing changes on the scale.
Mhm.
Then somehow someone tells them, or they figure it out that they need to watch what they're eating. Oh, okay, I need to do that. And things get a little bit better. And then you're like, yeah, I really like this. I feel good. I'm strong. I'm lean. Love it. What can I do now? What's
Right.
better? And it's not in an obsessive way. It's more in like peeling the onion. Does that make sense to you?
It totally does. And it's a journey, right? And you're exactly right. Everybody starts somewhere in their journey, whether it's maybe they were overweight or maybe they had some kind of health scare or whatever it is. Or maybe there's just that light switch that kicked in that said, what am I doing? Right. I have a lot of men that I work with that are like executives and things of that nature that they work so hard their whole entire life on their career, but now their health's kind of gone to poo. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so now they're like, okay, I want to use this money that I've made to take care of myself. Right. And so the whole premise is preventative healthcare, because unfortunately, the Western medicine, that we all are traditionally, exposed to, it's sick care, right? They are there to medicate you when you are out of range on your labs. And until you're out of range, you're just good enough not to need medication. And there's no malice at all, right? Like if I need surgery, I'm super glad there's anesthesia, right? Super glad. And that's just not how they were taught, right? So people like I exist to give someone a path, a guidance when they're trying to optimize. Like you said, peeling back the layer of the onion, and you never end. There's no
Right.
ending to this. Science is going to continue to emerge, right? Your body is going to heal. You're going to say, oh, well, let's optimize this or let's optimize this, right? And so it's just really being somewhere where someone come and ask questions,
Yeah.
you know,
I I
and
want to I want you to tell us what the path is, the journey is when someone comes to see you and they do this blood work, when they do this test. And then I'm more than happy to give an example of my experiences with you
sure. Yeah.
regarding particularly my testosterone, which you revealed a lot of information to me. And I'm 61 years old, and that's a big topic for a lot of men my age.
Mhm.
Women my age have a lot of questions about hormones as well.
Yes.
And you opened my eyes a lot. So tell me, what, you know,
How does
Mrs.
it work?
Johnson down the street comes to see you, and what do you do? What's the
Yeah.
process?
So the ideal scenario is somebody comes in and does their DEXA scan, which once again, it's the most accurate way. It's the gold standard in body composition testing. It'll let you know your bone mineral density. And that's really important too. You don't think about it, but we need strong bones to be able to have autonomy later in life. I don't know about you, but when I'm 90, I want to be able to get in my car, go to the grocery store, buy my groceries, unload them, and be strong and not worry about risking. Right. And if I do fall, my bones are strong enough to take it. Right. So starting out, it's body composition testing and blood work. Right. So that would hopefully be like the first step of the process.
Let
And
me
in that,
let
yeah,
me stop you. When you say blood work, are we talking about I got to go to the hospital for a month and you draw blood every day? Or are you talking about you just take a few
we take a few
needles worth,
vials.
like at the doctor? What are we talking about?
Yeah. So we start with just what we call a comprehensive blood panel. Right. So we have our doctors will run some really basic stuff, some CBCs. They'll just run a lipid panel, CMP, right? It's very basic, right? But we go above and beyond with over 65 plus biomarkers, and then also being able to test things, like I said, that the doctor's not normally going to test. And then also, too, our ranges in functional medicine and nutrition are very tight. So standard LabCorp Quest, right? When you get tested, you got the sickest of the sick and the healthiest of the healthiest. The range is really big. In functional medicine, we're looking at tight ranges. We want you optimal, and you can actually detect if something is going awry far before it ever becomes a problem. So that's the type blood work that we start with. And then having just a meeting with that person. There's usually an intake form they fill out, and they sit down with me or one of my colleagues here and going over it and finding out who they are, where they've been, and where they're trying to go. Right. From there, it's reviewing their blood work, coming up with a supplement protocol, a nutrition protocol for them. If any further testing is needed or wanted, we can. So that's super fun because then you get into gut microbiome mapping.
Mm-hmm.
You can get into cortisol testing, micronutrient testing, and then one of my personal favorites is food inflammation sensitivity testing. So food signals our body what to do. And the food inflammation and the food sensitivity testing is going to tell this person exactly what they should eat for their makeup. Just because you can eat broccoli doesn't mean that I should. And a lot of times, if we have sensitivities, it usually means that the gut is irritated, and there usually needs to be some kind of healing protocol that comes into play. And it's not pharmaceutical; it's supplements, it's food, right? So I think that Jay, that's kind of like the basis, right? It's like coming in to get your body composition, coming in to do a comprehensive blood panel. We test this at tons of markers the doctors don't test. Like for instance, doctors test thyroid; they run TSH. We have 6 different markers for the thyroid that we run, right? Hormone panels are usually like 3 things. We have about 8 that we run for hormones, right? So it's just taking a deep dive to get really granular and trying to find the root cause of what's going on with someone.
Now, when you say supplements, I think a lot of people automatically think of multivitamins at the Publix, in Publix with the vitamins and creatine and whatever
Yes,
else you can buy there. And I think the question that the general consumer often has is, what is this
blood
stuff? Is this any good? Is there any effect here? Or, because we don't really know if this stuff does anything. You're not
right.
talking about taking a men's multivitamin that I bought at Walgreens. You're talking about something that's much more sophisticated, right?
Correct. Yes. So kind of some education on supplements, right? They're not regulated by the FDA,
Right.
right? And when you buy supplements, you want to look for a GMP stamp. And that means that a third party has come in and tested that supplement to actually say what the company said is in the bottle is actually in it. Because there's not a lot of legality, right? That people can put stuff in it and sell it, and you just don't really know what you're getting. Now, the other problem with supplements is some supplements are synthetic. So they are not bioavailable. So your body can't absorb them. A lot of the lines that we work with are bioavailable. They're made from food-based products, so your body recognizes it. I tell people, if you come to my office, I have a giant bucket in my office. I call it the supplement bucket of shame, where people bring
Yeah.
it from, and we go through it. And I'm like, do I throw it in the bucket or do you want me to? Right? And it's just educating people, right? You don't know what you don't know. And a lot of times too, there's seed oils that are put in vitamins. There's colorings, that's all over the news right now, right? Right, getting rid of the coloring in foods. Well, they're in supplements. So I have clients that come in that are thinking they're doing a really good thing for themselves. They're taking their D and they're taking this, but you're putting little bits of poison in the body at the same time, right? So not all supplements are created equal. by far. Now, there are some really great brands out there, but it's having the education, understanding what you're looking for.
Right. Okay. Good. It's not as simple as saying take all the supplements, and it's not as simple as saying supplements are bad, don't take any supplements. It's
Right.
more like you really need to educate yourself because the FDA doesn't
Doesn't regulate
do
this yet.
it. I
Right.
think they just approve whether or not it's going to kill you, basically. Is that
Well,
correct?
so there's something called grass, generally recognized as safe in the
Okay.
US, right? So they don't have to actually prove that it doesn't cause cancer. They can just say, reductive testing is generally recognized as safe. That's
Okay.
legal in Europe. They have to prove that this product is safe for human consumption. So there's a lot higher up, above our
Yeah.
heads, stuff that's going on. I do think the pendulum is starting to swing the other way. I think that people are starting to be more in tune to like what they're actually putting in their body
Yeah, I
and
think so.
misconception, the misleading that's happened when it comes to supplements. And I want to say this to your viewers too. I have people that I meet that are like, I don't need supplements. And I'm like, but you do. So let me tell you why. And this doesn't come from me. This comes from, I can pull, I guess, into a whole list of doctors and their quotes, right? These are functional medicine doctors. They used to be cardiologists. These are educated people saying that you can absolutely not get what the body needs to perform optimally without supplementation. And my analogy is this: Jay, you use your car insurance every day, but you don't think about it. But if you get in a car wreck, it's there, right?
Yeah.
So it's with supplements. We have some basic foundational supplements I always tell people to take, and I'll tell you what those are in a minute. But it's having those input every day to make sure your bases are covered. So if your body needs to do some kind of chemical reaction, or it needs to heal itself, or it needs to support some system in the body, or fight off or elevate the immune system, or fight off a bacteria or whatever, it has what it needs. So it's your insurance policy. So unfortunately, the food that we have in the agricultural revolution and all the different things that have happened to our food over time, just the quality of the nutrients is not there. So, once again, I believe that knowledge is power, right? If we know these things, and it can be a rabbit hole for some people. It is. I like to think of it as a journey, right? Just constantly like self-hacking and trying to feel, how can I be better? How can I be better?
Yeah.
Just want to share that with the audience. It's like, I get so many people that always want to question, well, why do I need supplements? Because it's car insurance. You need it in case.
And you mentioned in passing about the food industry. We don't really eat food anymore, and
No, you
particularly we eat crap out of boxes and bags, and it's produced somewhere, and maybe there might be some little itty bitty element of actual food in it, but a lot of it is not. And so it's the idea that I just get everything from what I eat, and what you eat is Hostess Twinkies and Fritos. It's like, yeah, no, that's not enough.
Well, it even goes further than that too. So people who are, I've dubbed people optimizers. Those are the people that are like into their health. They're trying to do the things
Yeah.
right. They're optimizers. Then you have the other genre that maybe you're symptomatic and they really need to heal their body. They've got something going on, right? And their doctors told them they're fine. And they're like, but I'm not fine, right? So that's when we go to that root cause. We go down that path. But, for the optimizers, even if you're eating vegetables and proteins and things of animal proteins and things of that nature, still they don't have the nutrients that they used to, call it 40 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yep.
you're right. So we eat products as a nation, as a country. Like,
Yep.
right, when I walk into a gas station, when I look into like Publix, Kroger, wherever, I see products. I see Nike shoes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're man-made. Our body doesn't recognize them, and they inflame the body and create metabolic chaos.
Yes.
Body is just, it's all out of whack. But the cool thing is, like I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, is the body has an innate intelligence to heal itself. That's how it was designed, right? So we can just clear the path and put in the right inputs and usually support a little bit of supplementation. Man, the body can do crazy, amazing things.
At any age. It's not
At
just,
any age.
you're not too old for it because you're 60 or 70 or whatever.
No,
You can
not at
you can
all.
adopt
It's never
healthier
too late.
habits. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's really interesting the crap that we eat. We as a culture now, so much junk food, so much ultra processed food, and we wonder why we're obese as a nation. It's not because we're, necessarily lacking in any sort of self-discipline, although we might be, and that's a different conversation. But it's
Right.
just the stuff that we put in our mouths from the grocery store is not food by and large.
It's not. It also causes a lot of blood sugar dysregulation. So a lot of people have a hard time controlling themselves around food. So
Yeah.
first off,
Yeah.
there's food scientists that sit in a laboratory to try to figure out how we can make this super palatable so they keep coming back for more. Like that's their job. What was it? Pringles, like once you pop, you can't stop, right? Like, yeah, like that's like for real. That's what their job is. And in nature, there is no fat and sugar combined. Think about it. Where in nature do you get fat and sugar? Avocados don't have it. Animals don't have it, right? And so fat and sugar combined, think Hostess Twinkies, right? Super palatable, and it just lights up the dopamine receptors in our brain. So we're like, yes, we want more. So even if somebody's trying to do the right thing and, control cravings, they're having this dopamine hit coming in, right, from these palatable foods. And then also too, because they're so processed, it's spiking our blood sugar and our bodies bringing it back down really quick. Now, when that happens and it goes below what we would consider like a good baseline, then the body's like, hey, I need to eat. Blood sugar's too low, right? And that's that blood sugar roller coaster, up, down, up, down. So some people are fighting an uphill battle that they don't even realize. And they're like, well, why is this not working for me? It's because their physiology is out of balance and it's a struggle.
What can we do? People listening to this who work in health and well-being and fitness, whose clients and whose prospects are not going to do what you're proposing, and maybe they don't have access or awareness or funds, what have you, to partake of someone like you in their community, but they can still do better than they're doing. So
Yeah.
how can we communicate that to people without wagging our fingers and being scolds and telling them to put down the Pringles,
Right.
the Diet Dr. Pepper, that's bad for you. You know better. Doesn't work, right? So what can a gym owner do? What can I do? What can, anybody do to get their elderly mother to eat a little better? Or I don't know.
I think education is key, right? So let's say I'm from a gym owner, right? I'm a gym owner. I could have educational seminars, meetings, right? And you can't just do one and two people show up and like, oh, that didn't work. You have to create the culture. You have to create the culture. We're gonna ride this till the cows come home. We're gonna help you with your food, right? When I used to work with clients and like personal training clients 2 decades ago, getting old, Jay.
Tell me
I
about it.
was I would tell people if it swam in the ocean, flew in the sky, grew out of the ground, you can eat it, right? Or the thing I hear a lot of times too is, well, I'm just so bored with food. Well, no, there's no shame. There's no shame in that, but you are on this almost like drug addicted kind of back and forth with these processed foods, and you have to just stop one, and you'll go through a couple weeks of a detox, right? We don't feel so great. That troubling habits or energy's low, but as soon as that comes back, wow, like you feel like so good. But I go back to I'm sorry, I skipped around a little bit, but going back to I get bored with my food. So we are Paleolithic beings. At one point in time, we were running around with spears and killing animals and foraging, right? And if we're Paleolithic beings, think about that creature. There wasn't all of these options. We were super happy we had some animals that we killed, maybe some nuts, some berries, some foliage, right? And I just think that people make it a really hard, and they make it harder than it needs to be. And the social media and all the different things don't help. I would say we'll keep it super simple. Eat real protein at every meal. Try to eat veggies at every meal. And if you're trying to lose weight, you minimize your carbohydrates, right? And try to eat healthy fat. That is still an energy source. You can train the body by the inputs that you put in of what fuel you want it to metabolize and use. So if you keep putting in carbs, it's going to keep burning carbohydrates or utilizing carbohydrates because the body's like, we are lazy, we are good, we're just going to keep using what you give us, right? So it's harder for the body to break down fat in the beginning for fuel, but it can. It absolutely can. So, I think that the question is, how do we get people who maybe don't have the resources, or how do we get our client to, jump on board with this? It's either hand holding and making it really simple and trying to show them. Like even on my social media, I'm trying to show some my meal sometimes because it's like eggs and some avocado. Like it's not fancy. It's not a recipe. It's just, I need eggs. I need protein. I need healthy fat in this meal, and we're done. Um, One thing that, and there's no shame in this, but this is something that I've learned just in dealing with clients over the years, is the biggest thing people tell me is they don't have time.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I give people grace upon grace. I do. But you're always not going to have time. That's always going to be a thing. And being healthy is going to cost you one thing, and that is time, right? So can you grocery shop on a Friday, meal prep on a Saturday for 4 or 5 days, right? Or whatever. So it's like, like I give people grace, but in the same sense, we have to realize that most people's lives aren't going to get any slower. So we have to make it a priority.
Hey, are you a fitness professional trying to grow your business with people over 50? If you are, then you need to know how to communicate with them, how to market to them, and how to get them to trust you with their fitness, well-being, and money. We're talking about millions of people who are a little older than the typical market that the fitness industry usually pursues. They have more money, more time, and better motivation to make the best long-term fitness consumers you'll find anywhere. If you're not focusing on them, you should be. Prime Fit Content is the only content marketing company designed specifically to help you engage people in this group and to help you distinguish yourself from competitors in your community. It's effective, affordable, and super easy to use. Check it out at primefitcontent.com. That's prime, like prime of your life, fitcontent.com. Back to the show. Yeah, it's it's really about for me, I shouldn't speak for others, but I think this is probably true. It's our priorities, and we don't even realize that we're making them priorities, because if we did, we would prioritize what we eat, and we would prioritize our sleep, and we would prioritize our health. And we do not do that. We say, oh, I'm too busy. And so I try to say for myself again, and as just, I'm too busy to read a great work of literature this week. You know what? Because maybe I am. Or I'm too busy to practice the piano this week because I really wish I could play the piano. So gosh, if I just practiced every day, I could do it, right? What have you. I don't say I'm too busy to eat a decent lunch today.
Right.
And so I don't get it. I think we have to highlight, like you said, education, highlight to people, you're making a choice every time you put something in your mouth.
It's either going to make you better or it's going to make you worse.
Yeah.
And that's what very, very simple. I'm simplifying that, right? But that's just kind of a way to think about it that resonates with some people. So every bite, I'm like, okay, is this making me better? Or is this going to make my cognitive function better? Is it going to help me with body fat? Is it going to help me achieve whatever goal? It doesn't always have to be aesthetics, but can what I'm eating get me closer to my goal?
Yeah.
And, another thing too, I think for people is you can't make it all or nothing. This is a journey. This is a marathon, not a sprint, a process, not an event, right? So it's baby steps. Dr. Mark Hyman, I love him. He's a great functional medicine ND. He wrote a book called The Sugar Detox, like a decade ago, 10-day sugar detox. And he starts out, and I believe this, and I use this with a lot of my patients, is in with the good and out with the bad, right? So it's not totally revamping everything at first, but what good can I put on my plate? Right? So I mean, spaghetti and meatballs. Can I add some broccoli to that? Cool. Great. That's a great step, right? Then it's like, what's next? Okay, well, I'm eating, my healthy grain cereal or grain-free cereal with cow's milk. Can I put almond milk in there? Right? It's taking baby steps to kind of hash through and dig through, because you're not going to change it all overnight. I get some people that come in, they're like, give me everything, right? But that usually doesn't work, so it's just look at your life and figure out right off the top, what do I know for a fact I'm doing that's wrong? Like, no, there's no education to this. Like, you probably know there's one thing in your life that you eat that probably is not that good, for me at one point, this is silly, but when my kid was little, it was graham crackers. I was like, I would eat his graham crackers, and I realized I was buying them for me, not buying them for him, because he wasn't eating them. So it's trying to identify little bits of things of what we can make one small change at a time.
I'll tell you something. Something that you brought up from my blood work when you did the panel on me is I believe you found, correct me if I'm wrong, that I was a little bit low in iron.
Yes.
Which is interesting because my partner had previously had his blood work done just a couple of weeks before, and he was low on iron. Well, he's vegan.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not, but I guess I'm about 2/3 vegan because he cooks most of the meals and I generally eat what he makes. So never occurred to me. I just thought, I'm eating all this food. It happens to come from plants instead of animals. and it's affecting you saw that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That was really interesting to me. And so there's all sorts of things that you can tell from these
Just a basic
numbers.
blood panel. Yep.
But yeah, so
Yeah.
interesting. And then
One,
also I asked you, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, you go first.
Well, I wanted to ask to talk about my testosterone a little bit,
Testosterone.
not because I have an issue with my testosterone, but because it illustrates a lot of these points. Okay. So I've had my testosterone checked with my annual physical every year since I turned whatever. I'm 61 now. It's always been fine, I guess on the high end of acceptable. But as you pointed out, the acceptable range is really broad.
Mhm.
I don't know what it is, but let's say it's 200 to 800. And I was always around 650 or 700. So I didn't worry about it. But as you get older, men start talking about these things. Testosterone is something that we talk about more than, you might imagine. And so you did a little bit deeper dive and found that, yeah, I'm acceptable, but I'm not optimal.
Right.
And what
Right.
is the difference for a man of my age? Not, I don't want to
Mhm.
talk about me. I mean, just me as an example of a fairly typical 61-year-old person to be a little bit, not optimal on something like testosterone.
Yeah. So first off, all men go through andropause, which is equivalent to our female menopause. Something happens, there's nothing you did to make it happen, right? It's just a natural way of life. Now, everybody's different. I had a 36-year-old male in here with a testosterone of 167 is total, which is really low. So optimal range is going to be somewhere really between holistically 6 to 800. Really, if you're working with bioidentical hormones and you're really trying to like push the marker, 800 to 1,000 is where people usually feel like really good. And so if you are a male and your testosterone is in the 400s, right? And you notice that your erection stiffness is not quite there, if you notice that the lack of libido is there, that drive, that ready to go and crush the day, energy levels drop, then it's a good sign that you may need to get your hormones checked. And for you, Jay, you were in a good range, like, right? You weren't too low, but I do think in the next few years, you need to just watch it because I
Yeah.
think if you're getting lower into the 400s or something like that, then I think that it'd be a great idea to explore it. So bioidentical hormones are really protective for men and women. So for men, there's a decreased risk of cardiovascular events and strokes, right? And then also too, it's a therapeutic dose. We're not doing bodybuilder doses, right?
Yeah.
We're just get you back to where you were in like your 20s and your 30s and you're like rocking and rolling, right? Everything's great. And tell people it's like we have the science to do it, right? And for me, being a very holistic person, I don't like pharmaceuticals. This is probably the closest thing I do to a pharmaceutical, but it's something my body recognizes because it's bioidentical. And for females, it's kind of the same thing. It's like, the menopausal symptoms, the hot flash and the weight gain and the mood and the skin dryness and the hair loss, all these things. It's like you don't have to suffer. You don't. We have the technology to balance them and replenish them and get you back into a place where, you go live your life. As a society, we're living more and more years. We're going to have more centenarians, people living to 100 than ever before in these next few decades, right? And you can either just accept I'm getting old, which I feel like is what a lot of our parents did, right? And there's, well, I'm 40, I'm 50, I'm old. I'm like, I am 40 and I am like, feel like I'm 20. It's just a number. Age is just a number. So I just think that like it's very important to really check your hormones. And that's what we do too at the clinic, is just really diving into that. And then the other piece when it comes to hormones that I think makes our practice a little bit unique is that we look at all 4 legs of the chair of the hormone cascade. So you have your sex hormones, your estrogen, your testosterone, your progesterone. Then you have thyroid hormones. Then you have cortisol, and then you have insulin, right? So you got to make sure all 4 legs of the chair are in balance. So your insulin, making sure that you're not pre-diabetic, make sure that you're not constantly spiking your blood sugar, keeping it more even. Your cortisol, are you a stress ball at work, right? Is there a way that you can mitigate some of that stress? Life's always going to be busy, but your perception is your reality. So can you reframe it to yourself? Can we take some ashwagandha? Can we try to like blunt that cortisol response? Can you not watch TV or work until you go to bed? Can you have a sleep hygiene routine where, 90 minutes before it's bedtime, you start winding down, you start turning lights off, you read a book, something of that nature. And then like the sex hormones, right? Just knowing what your levels are. And, somebody could be at 600 and feel amazing for a male, for males. I feel amazing. Somebody else could be at 600 and just feel like crap. So so different. And that's the thing that I think that I really want to express to people is like, we are unique. We are so unique. And you can't base what you do with your health on what you heard or what you read. You have to have the data. So that way you can actually measure it.
Yeah. Look, Nikki, I could keep asking you questions all day long, but I want to keep this, be respectful of your time and also the listeners' time.
And people with tangents, I know that.
Yeah, no, it's great. And I know we can't get into everything in one conversation, but tell people where they can go to learn more about this and to contact you if they're so interested.
Yes, absolutely. So we are building our website. It's going to go live in about a week. So we've been at the clinic now for almost 3 months. We're referral based only right now, but if you go to our website at www.experience.health, so it's spelled with an X, experience.health, you can go on and scroll down to the bottom and just send me a message. It says, hey, what are you interested in learning more about? Right? Give me your name, your email address, and then we can do a free consultation. Once the clinic is open and running to the general public, consultations will be paid. There'll be paid consultations. But for right now and for all your listeners, if somebody has questions or they want to learn more about peptides, Jay, we didn't even talk about peptides. It's a whole other kit caboodle of health options. Or they want to learn more about the GLP-1 weight loss medication or hormones or nutrition or testing, just shoot me a message and then I will respond.
Both of those topics were on my list, Nikki, peptides and GLP-1s, but man,
we'll have to come back and do it again.
We'll have to do a part 2 because it's too
they
interesting.
go together. The GLP-1s and the peptides go together because the GLP-1s are actually a peptide. And for your audience, your GLP-1s are your Ozempic, your weight loss, your Wegovy, all your weight loss meds. They're not all created equal. Your body does make GLP-1s, and there's a reason why most people are deficient. And it makes sense that, if you're low in iron, right, Jay, if you're low in iron, doesn't it make sense to supplement with iron? Or if you're low in vitamin D, makes sense to supplement with vitamin D, right? If you have a gut that's disrupted and your GLP-1 Akkermansia bacteria is a little bit on the lower side, then you could supplement with it and bring yourself back up to baseline. So there's that. And then peptides too, like I said, it's a whole other kit caboodle. It's getting the data, getting a solid foundation, and then it's optimization. So those are our 3 pillars here at Experience Health.
I love it. And we will have to do this again because it's, like I said, I could ask you questions and I get the sense you could talk about it all day. Call me crazy.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Okay. Well, Nikki, thanks so much. It's been a pleasure.
It's a pleasure. Yes. You can also find me on Instagram at NikkiFit_fitness.com. So NikkiFitFitness.com or at NikkiFit_fitness. That's my Instagram. You can see us there. We also have experience.health on Instagram, but my website's probably going to be the best way to get in touch with me.
Okay.
Which is www.experience.health.
And I will put all of those in the show notes so people can find them.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Beautiful.
I appreciate you, Jay. You got to come up and visit. Got to come see me. You got the DEXA scan now. So you got to come DEXA scan.
Yeah, I want to get the DEXA scan. Okay. I'll be right up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bye, guys.